And we'll see what happens. We got Rosie here. I'm live. We're live. Hello, friends of Diva and the Divine. Welcome to the first ever book club meeting. This is very, very exciting. And as you can see, I am not alone for the first time ever. And that is very exciting to me. Rosie, give me some feedback. Can you see us? Can you hear us? Is it working? Because I'm going to keep switching back and forth here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. For those of you that are just joining us, I see we've got a handful of people on with us tonight. Welcome, my friends. So these are the bold faces that have decided to come and join me for book club, which is very, very exciting. There's Emily. I was wondering when she was coming. We got one more coming. I know Emily was doing work, getting home from work. Hi, Emily. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, there she is. Great. Awesome. Fantastic. So for those of you watching at home, not actively participating in book club, the book that we are talking about today is Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. And this is a book that my husband actually remembered I had read before, because when I started reading it again this month, I set it, all of my books that I'm reading, I sat down on our coffee table in the living room, and he looked at me and he goes, I swear I've looked at that woman before. Why is she back on our coffee table? And I'm like, the book was so good, we're rereading it again. So the Diva and the Divine Book Club is focused solely on books that are geared towards self-improvement and self-help, if you will. But I mean, I love a good self-help book. I'm a huge fan of a good self-help book. And I like the fact that I can take this opportunity to have other people read the books that have impacted me in some way, and hopefully they find benefit in it as well. So the first one we started with was this one. The link to this is down below if you guys are interested in it by the time we are done chatting about it. But I just wanted to dive in with, we can take turns or whatever. I would love to hear your guys' initial opinions on this book. What did you think? Did it evoke feelings? How did it make you feel? What did it make you think about as a whole? And then I figured we can kind of go through chapter by chapter and talk about what stood out to us most. But first, let's hear you talk about your initial, your big picture thoughts on the book. Whoever wants to start, go for it. I'm open.
Okay, I'll start. I thought it was actually really motivating. I mean, it just kind of spoke to me, and, get off the couch, get your butt in gear, start doing things that you really want to happen. And there's things, that I've really wanted to happen a long time, that I've been doing exactly what this book says I'm doing, and just procrastinating it. And every excuse that they named in this book, I had. So it's actually, I started today. I went on Etsy to see how I can sell my items and stuff like that. But I need to make my items first to have a good quantity amount to sell them. But I'm really looking into it now. But it's a really good book. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, this is one of those, it's a tough love book. And that coming from your tough love queen here. And this is a book that's ooh, Marie's a little in your face. But all right, who's next? Anybody?
I'll go next. My space bar quit working. I too thought it was very motivating, and I'm not usually one of those people who reads these types of books. Okay. And and I forget which chapter it was I actually took some notes, and in one of the chapters she asks, why are you reading this book? And I said, I picked it up because it was a book club pick.
Me too.
I love it. I usually read to escape and to, go into another life, not to look at my own, which you really should do. But I also, like Connie, I found it very motivating. And while we were going through this book club, I have a possible job change happening, and it means taking on a lot more responsibility. And I'm only 2 years from retirement. So I was like, I'm not sure I want to do this, but reading the book has really helped me to work through those feelings. So it came at a perfect time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great. Good. And I love, so you're the escapist when it comes to reading and everything. So being in this book club is way out of your comfort zone to begin with. I love that. I love that. Who's next? Come on, speak up.
I'll go next. And I didn't have the same reaction.
Okay.
Still did. And it could be the season that I am in life. I'm newly retired and that kind of thing. And I think if you're entrepreneurial, sorry, and that kind of thing, I think this can be a good book for, go build your business and that kind of thing. But where I'm at, and maybe the type of person I am, there were bits and pieces that I really liked and that I'll pull out and apply. But the whole go grab the world by the tail kind of thing, that's not me.
Fair enough. That's totally fair. And I appreciate that you have a different opinion and a different view, because quite frankly, not everybody's going to like all of the books that we do. And like, there are some, my hope is that we start doing some that I haven't read, which means I could read it and be like, I don't, whatever. So like, that's awesome. That's great. But I love that you still found gems in there that you're like, oh yeah, this is applicable. I could do this.
I had a little notebook by me while I was reading so that I'd go, oh yeah.
I love that.
I love that.
Love it. Anybody else?
Well, when I first tried reading this book, because I bought this book back in like September or whenever you read it for the first time, I wanted to take my Kindle and throw it across the room and unsubscribe from you.
Yeah. I know this book made you very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and even getting through it, trying to actually get through it, because the first time I could not get through it. It was just too hard for me emotionally. And even this time around, I had to read a chapter, then take a couple days to recover from each chapter. So I'm actually been listening to the audiobook again, and I'm finally able to at least listen to it without completely freaking out.
That's good. That's progress. And progress is a good thing. So, but did you find it to be as difficult as it was it positively impactful?
I think so. At least it's gotten me to the point where I'm thinking about things instead of immediately rejecting them.
That's good. That's enough for me. I approve. Anybody else?
I can go.
Emily, go for it.
So I feel like this book would have been really good for me to read like a few years ago. I recently graduated nursing school and it was a career change. So I'd already gone to school and then I decided to go back to school in my mid-20s and then continue to work. So that was like a really difficult time for me to try to like I really needed that motivation. And now that I'm done, so like my big hurdle is kind of like my life is more like mellow now. I'm always thinking like what's next, because now like for years I had just always been constantly working towards something and now I'm not, so I don't really know like what my goals are quite yet, and I do have some big goals down the road for my career, but it will be a good book to reread when I decide I'm ready to go back to school again.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt about this book. When I put it down, again, I finished it today because, master procrastinator here. I put it down and I was like, this is a book I need to remember to reference whenever I need something that's in this book, like the resource is there. Mindy, you had something you wanted to say about it?
Yes, I have to admit, I didn't read the whole book. I'm in the middle of the book, but I think it's I'm reading it on my Kindle, and the next book, since it's self-help, I would get the real book so that way I can write notes as I'm going.
Yeah.
I think that was the thing with it that took so long for me to get through it, which I'm still going through it, is because I can't write in it because it's in my Kindle.
Yeah.
So, but also I'm not retirement, but again, you know, I'm thinking of other goals, like not really career. I'm ready, you know.
Yeah.
But it's helpful to read it.
Yeah. Yeah. Sherry, do you have anything you want to add? Nope. All right. She's just trucking along here listening to us. That's great. Yeah. And it's one of those things like, okay, so I'm primarily a weight loss channel, right? A lot of people are talking about applying this to your careers. Have you guys considered applying this to any personal goals like weight loss or whatever else your personal goals may be? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. When I started reading this, you know how she had you write out the list of all the things, if you could do anything and you wouldn't fail, list your list. And so I listed a bunch of things, and healthy and fit was the one I ended up circling. And so I did my 5 small things, and I've actually been doing them, and they're all health related. It's just I was looking at the whole book as health related, and how can I, you know, put that towards what I'm trying to get at and get healthier. And the whole job thing just kind of slipped into it. But yeah, it's still my main things that I'm working on is health.
Love it. Love it. And I think that's the power in this book, is because it's literally talking about everything is figureoutable. So like whatever your goal, whatever your aspiration, whatever your problem, you can apply what's in this book to health, to career, to Etsy shop, to whatever it is that your thing is at the time, which I think is really, really cool. All right, let me take a look here and see. I had a hard with it for a while. It got better. I'm just trying to check out the YouTube chat and see if anything exciting is happening over there. Okay, so let's dive in. I thought that it would just be fun, because I have no freaking idea how to run a book club at all, to just go kind of chapter by chapter and be like, this is what stood out to me, or this is, you know, this was the most impactful part. This is what I didn't agree with it, whatever. Conversational pieces, chapter by chapter, and, you know, chat until our hour or so is up, right? So the first chapter was about the Tropicana orange. That's right. I read this at the beginning of the month, which is where we learn Marie's figureoutable philosophy that everything is in fact figureoutable. And the only thing I ended up highlighting, and because there's so much good stuff in here that I just highlighted this stuff, and I'm like, this is what I need to remember. So as I flip through the book, I see the bright yellow, and that's what makes me stop. And the only thing that I highlighted in this chapter really was at the very end, and it said, yet there can be no significant change in the world unless we first have the courage to change ourselves. In order to change ourselves, we must first believe we can. And I just think that's so impactful, because I mean, doesn't she go into the whole story about beliefs next and whatnot? Eventually she starts talking about beliefs, and I was just like, because like, you know it, I preach it, I hear it, but reading it again, I was like, it's true. If you don't believe that you can do it, or you do believe you can do it, that's literally the end all be all. That's your yes, you're going to do it, or no, you're not. So the fact that she just laid that out there right there at the beginning was a powerful way to start for me. So let's hear what the rest of you got.
And what page was that on?
Page 7.
Oh, way early.
Yeah, so way. Shh. Oh, look at them.
It's thundering outside.
Oh.
Come on, girls.
I mean, Gracie barks at every person that dares to pass by her sidewalk. Dares. How dare you go on a run or walk your other dog or have a leaf blow by. I'm really lucky she can only see out of one window.
Well, what I highlighted in the first chapter was the Maya Angelou quote about do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better.
Yeah.
So that's what I highlighted. And mine's on the Kindle, so don't ask me what page, because my page will be different than your book page.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Totally fine. Yeah, no, that's a great quote. That's a great quote. And then when you know better, do better. I like that. Anyone else? No? Because we can move right on to chapter 2. I need to get rid of this thing. Hang on. Sorry, Marie, you gotta go. There we go. All right, so then let's look at chapter 2, your roadmap to the results. So what's interesting is apparently I started to take a highlighter or like a bright pink pen to this the first time around, and I'm pretty sure this is the only thing I highlighted the first read around. I don't know if I gave up or I don't know what happened, but the first thing that I highlighted was the Carlos Castaneda quote that we either make ourselves miserable or we make ourselves strong. The amount of work is the same. And for me, that applies because when I think of goals that I have 2 camps. I have growing the brand of Diva and the Divine, YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. And I have my health. Those are like the 2 big things that are always going through my brain. And so I was thinking about the, in terms of the weight loss and the health journey and everything. And you hear, has anyone seen that quote that's talking about like being healthy is easy, being overweight or hard, losing weight is hard, being overweight is hard, pick your hard or something. That's what this reminded me of. It's like both things are work and they both take the same amount of work. It's just different work. So apparently that's what hit me the first time around, because it's literally the only thing with the pink underline in it in the entire book. And then my next thing is in the train your brain for growth. Does anybody have anything before then? No, because I thought this whole chapter was fascinating, quite frankly, because she just lays it all out there. But for me, the other thing, the training your brain for growth, I highlighted, how can this work me? How can this work for me? How can this work for me? How can this work for me? Emphasizing things in the different tones. When she asked the same question in like what felt like 4 different ways, I literally stopped and like re-emphasized every word. And as I changed the question, as I changed the emphasis, I noticed, I'm sorry, I didn't realize Emily had disappeared and joined again. There we go. My bad. Sorry, Emily. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the waiting room. And I was like, oh, wait.
Sorry.
So there's just something in like that, the simplicity of changing the emphasis on the different syllable, like really for whatever reason spoke to me and was very impactful. It's like changing the one word made it a completely different question. So then when you change the one word to whatever problem you're approaching, the emphasis is completely different, which might mean like you ask yourself this problem in a different way. Maybe it's all of a sudden not as big of a problem as if you asked it in a, does that make sense? Like, I don't know. There's just something that was like, oh, there's something simplifying in that. And then one of my favorites is instead of saying this won't work for me, this won't work for me. No, that's not how I do it. How can this work for me? That is gold, because it's one of those, like, you can't say, no, this isn't going to work for me, like just flat out without giving it a second thought, because maybe it will, you just have to figure out how. And that, I found that very impactful because it can be directly applicable to some people's lives that I know of in this very moment. So, anybody have any thoughts on that? I see things changing. Why are things changing?
Well, I think it's just very positive, like how she changed the wording. Mm-hmm. It's just like very proactive, I think. Good word. How she changed the wording. That's what it is, proactive.
Proactive. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a different way of thinking and being positive and proactive.
Yeah.
And coming up with a plan rather than, being so negative about whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I mean, I think that's the whole premise of the book. Because everything's figureoutable, which means there's no problem.
Right. Exactly.
So, I love that mindset. Y'all know me. I love my positive attitudes. Does anybody else have something?
I like the how can this work for me
Mm.
line too, just because, so many things it's like, well, that's a problem. Well, wait, how can I get it to work out?
Yeah. Is it really a problem? And like, yeah, it could still be a problem, but you can still grow from that problem. You can still have a positive something happen from that problem, even if it is a problem. I agree.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a little bit later in the chapter where she talked about doing the work and then the thing I highlighted was because insight without action is worthless. Taking action is the only path to change. Because I can't tell you the amount of times I have researched everything under the sun on health and wellness. I know the stuff, but it's actually the action of putting it in my life and doing the work. So that's what stuck out to me and what I highlighted.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. And that's me too. And she talks about it a couple of times, like, don't get into analysis paralysis. Don't get into like stop researching and start doing. And like, I keep reading that and I'm like, stop researching and just do it. Cause there's so many things even on my list. And I'm like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And have I done any of them? No. Why? Because I don't feel like I'm ready to do it. So like that stuff in here was a punch to the gut to me just in real time, in recent reading of this. I'm like, oh, still hurts to hear it. Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts on chapter 2? Consult the YouTubes. Hello, YouTube friends. All right, people are just trucking along with us here. Great. All right, so let's move on to chapter 3, the magic of belief. I loved this one. I must have saved my highlights for like literally the most outstanding stuff because I thought everything in this chapter was outstanding, and I think I have one highlight. Oh no, I have a couple. So the first thing I highlighted was therapy is about healing the past and coaching is about creating your future. And I basically highlighted that because, your girl wants to look into starting a coaching type program. So I was like, oh, that's a really good thing to remember going forward. But what really stood out to me was on page 28 for people not in the Kindle, for people with the actual book, the bolded type that says beliefs are hidden scripts that run our lives. And then a little further down, it says a belief is something you know with total and absolute certainty. It is the truth. And then the creation formula starting with belief before the thought, because as long as you know it with certain truth, then comes the creation of the thing, whatever it is you believe. If I believe that I can get to goal, if I believe that I can get strong enough to do X, then and only then am I able to take the actions necessary to do said thing, whatever it is. For me, it could be as simple as lifting 5-pound weights or whatever the heck the limit might be. If I think that I can exceed the limit, if I don't believe it, if I think that for me and my personal issue of having my disease, if I think that's a limiting thing, I'm doomed. But it's my belief that makes it not limiting. So for me, that's so powerful on so many levels. So what do you guys think about the magic of belief?
I also really like this chapter. I thought it was interesting how she also pointed out that your beliefs can change. And I just thought that was such a good way or a good thing for me to read, because sometimes I can be so hard in my beliefs and think that I will never change. But I also like that it kind of gives you the ability to grow when you challenge your beliefs, not just in like health and wellness, but just on everything that you do believe. And then what else did I yeah, when she said, when you change a belief, you can change everything, just like your outlook on everything. And it also kind of goes into like, where did they come from? So I also kind of like that, like, where did you come from? And then how can you grow from it? And how can you change it? And I don't know. I really like this chapter too.
Yeah, it is a good one. And I think the most powerful thing, stemming off of what you said about how beliefs can change, I think that's most powerful when we struggle with a limiting belief. Because if it is a limiting belief that we are struggling with, and you know for sure this is what you believe and I don't know how to change it and this is what's holding me back, well, good news, beliefs can change. So all of a sudden that just makes things more empowering where you're like, wait, I don't have to think that this is whatever the limiting belief is. And yeah, there's a lot of power in that. I like that a lot. Anyone else? Chat. The
I
magic of
highlighted on page 39 under examples, number 4. It says finding role models outside your immediate circles is one of the best and most powerful ways to transcend your own limiting beliefs. It's like, you know, when you watch TV or watch somebody do something and you're just like, they did that. It's like, well, if they can do that, maybe I can do that, you know, or, you know, that sort of empowerment to say, hey, you know, that is a possible thing to do.
Yeah.
And I always like shows that are like that just, you know, are out there saying, you know, you can do this, you can do this. And I always, when it's all done, I'm always sitting there going, I need to go out and do that.
That's one of the reasons I think my husband and I really like, we've stopped watching it now, but we were really into American Ninja Warrior for a while. And that's a show where like all these fit, like normal people, not celebrities, not Olympians, normal people, you know, do these really tough physical courses. And then we got into The Rock's Titan Games, which is the same idea. Like these wickedly strong, not skinny, not little light and wispy, strong women came in and just killed it. And I'm sitting there going, I need to go to the gym because I want to do that too. Like just seeing them, which is why I love shows like that now. Love shows like that. I also believe that's why shows like The Biggest Loser are so popular, because people can sit at home and go, they did it.
Right.
Why can't I do it?
Yeah.
100%. 100%. Rosie said the magic of belief is exactly, loved it. It's why it's so hard to change when you don't believe it's possible. Yeah, the magic of belief is amazing. Anyone else have thoughts on the magic of belief?
It was good. It was a great chapter. And the things that, it was the same thing as what Emily is talking about beliefs being a choice. Choices can be changed. That's what I highlighted.
Yes. I have on page 32, I did a lot of highlighting on page 32, starting with every belief has a consequence. Your beliefs either heal you or harm you. They either support your aspirations or support them. Belief becomes a source of your limitation or your liberation. It doesn't matter what's true, it matters what you believe. And I just think that, and it's all kind of saying the same thing over and over again, but I think it's such an important point to drive home that it doesn't matter that it's on repeat, you know, because, and it's no mistake that she started the book with this chapter and didn't like tag it onto the end, you know, because you got to change this first before you can change anything else.
I liked on page 41, it says, our brains tend to reinforce what we already believe.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, it's just something to think about. You know, if you're researching or reading something, or, you know, it's like, oh yeah, I already believe that, and that reinforces what I'm already thinking. So therefore, I must be right.
You'll find it. Yeah.
And then the other one I liked is on page 45, where it talks about the most powerful words in the universe are the words we say to ourselves.
Yeah.
I think was it Eleanor Roosevelt? I think she references that in the book. You know, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes. And I think I actually highlighted it somewhere in here because it was in this chapter that it was said. And it's just because it's so true. And like, it's such a simple line, but it's something that's so easy to forget, that like we have total 100% control over this. And yet it's sometimes the hardest thing for us to overcome in the process of personal growth, which I think is so fascinating. All right. Any last minute thoughts, or should we move on to chapter 4? Going once, going twice. Chapter 4, eliminate your excuses. This is a good one. And this is the thing that I read the first time and like to throw at everybody, including myself. And that is on page 53. And that is here's the problem. 99% of the time when we say we can't do something, can't is a euphemism for won't.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever someone tells me I can't do something, I usually hear I can't lose weight. And the answer is, my response is always why. And excuse, myself included, why can't I blah, 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 blah. Well, because I can't do it because I won't do it. I won't take the steps that I know with certainty are the right steps. I won't do it. It's not that I can't. It's that I can. I've gotten a goal before. I know darn well that I can. I won't. And so every time I hear someone say, I can't do it, I'm like, is it you can't do it or you won't do it? And every time I get the same, you're right. It's from her. It's not my wisdom. It's her wisdom. But I've just like, that's my favorite thing in this whole chapter. Hands down.
Yeah, I felt like she was talking right at me, because the things that I highlighted was there are two kinds of people in the world, those with reasons and those with results. And it was just kind of a wake-up call. Yeah, I always come up with reasons why I can't or won't. And then the other one I highlighted was, if it's important enough, I'll make the time. If not, I'll make an excuse. And it was like she was looking right at me, because excuses, that's like my middle name most of the time. So
yeah, no, that's, oh man. Yes. No, and the making the time or making the excuse, it's for me, it's like I sit there all day, and sometimes I've gotten a lot better at it lately since I put my workouts on the calendar, like, because I made the time, I've effectively eliminated the excuse. But up until then, when I'm like, oh, I should go to the gym today. Oh, I will just excuse. And then the day is done. And I'm like, you had the time all day. What's your problem? And I'll call myself out on my own crap, but that's exactly what happens. That's the cycle that happens for me. And yeah. Oh, so good. What else spoke to you?
Well, I went and put a great big huge, it's probably backwards, amen right here when it says you are 100% responsible for your life, because you are. I mean, nobody else is responsible for your life but yourself. You control it. You do what you can, and what you want to do with it. So that one was just like, wow, it's 100%, and you only get one body. What really speaks to me as well is that you don't get to change your body. I mean, this is it. So you feed it, nourish it, and love it, and it will work for you. But if you don't, it's going to be crippling and sick and unfun. So yeah, the exercising and the eating right and everything like that is definitely something you need to be responsible for, because you only have the one body to take care of.
100%. Who else?
I really kind of got a knock upside the head from the on page 73, the cost of wasting your time, where it talks about dinking around on your phone. It's like guilty.
Yeah. Oh,
way too often, way too much time.
Yeah. And did that chart stir up anybody else. Like, even if none of the things on the chart are your goals, just like the mere representation of like, okay, 30 minutes a day dicking around on your phone and social media. I know for sure, like, I'm a YouTuber, so I can use it as an excuse to be on social media, but I can guarantee you more than 30 minutes of that is just me screwing off versus actually working. You know, too easy. 30 minutes a day, 182.5 hours or 22 full work days wasted. That's almost a month. Like,
That's crazy.
Does that hurt anybody else as much as it hurt me?
I took her advice and I turned off all my notifications. I'm like, okay, this is done. I got to do this because it's a huge distraction. You start hearing those beeps and buzzes and you're like running to your phone to see what, who's telling me something, and I thought, you know what, this is my time. And I don't want to be connected that much to the phone. So I turned it all off. And it was just recently, yesterday, I turned back on my Marco Polo so I can talk to my daughter and know when she's talking to me. But I don't get the notifications or anything. So when I get to my phone, it's like, oh, I don't even know if anybody notified me. I actually have to push on the apps and then I'm in and out of them really quick. But yeah, no, it's different when you turn it all off.
I should do that because I live with my phone perpetually on silent. It is very rare that my phone is audible. Unless I know I'm expecting a call from somebody, I will leave my phone on silent. And when my phone is on silent, I turned off the vibrations. So like it's dead to the world when it's on silent. And I find myself getting perturbed. Like when I flipped it on the last 2 days, like every email, I'm like, this has got to, and so I've learned to like the no notifications, the no dinging is so nice. I turned off Instagram notifications. So I have to go into the app to see if I have any messages or anything. And it's been wonderful.
Yes, I agree. It's definitely a game chaser.
Yeah, that's good. I just have to have the willpower to just put the phone down, period.
I know, right?
Did that over the long weekend. I kind of left the phone in the bedroom, away from where I was. And it was really hard because it was like a siren calling my name. But it was like, no, just leave it. You can do it for 3 days. And having done that experiment, it's like, okay, you should do this more often. Set up a certain period of time where, here for the next, even if it's an hour, it's still less time than what I was doing.
Yeah, I agree 110%. That is one of my goals. I just filmed my goals video today, and that is continuing to be one of my goals, is to just put the phone down more. I'm heading over to YouTube for a second. Sarah S. says, I think one of the most powerful moments in this chapter is that you don't need to act based on emotion. It's so liberating. Just because I feel like eating due to stress doesn't mean I have to. That's very, very true. Very true. That's a very good insight, Sarah. Sorry, I got to turn my mouse off. I have a Bluetooth mouse that keeps saying connected, not connected, connected. Whatever. Eat better, faster, and cheaper. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Eliminating excuses. There's so many good excuses that she covered in here. I love that she covered like the 3 biggest ones. What was excuse number 1? There are so many headlines in here. I think, I don't have the time. Duh. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. And I don't know how. Like all of every excuse for everything that you could possibly do is like one of those 3 excuses, and she just debunked them all. So we're like, all right, now I have no reason not to. Right? That's how I felt at the end of this chapter. I was like, well, shoot, now I have to. Whatever it is, now I have to. Which is terrifying, but also really liberating at the same time. Anybody have other thoughts on eliminating excuses? No? All right. Chapter 5, how to deal with the fear of anything. The things that I have highlighted, in the immediate start of the chapter, on page 92, I started highlighting with, you never get stronger if you only do easy things, which is true. And then just because I made a mistake and I messed up doesn't mean I was going to give up. And that is something that is so applicable to, I mean, anything, literally anything, but it is what I hear time and time and time again in the weight loss community. I messed up, so I'm just throwing in the towel for the day. Over and over and over again. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to be that person too. I used to be that person. And I finally figured out I don't have to be. Like, you can, the next choice, just because you messed up doesn't mean, well, all right, do better next time. It's fine. If next time is 3 hours from now when dinner is ready, piece of cake. Like, you don't have to throw in the towel just because you messed it up. If you launch something, if this book club was a complete and utter disaster, which it is not, by the way, it's going very well, I think. So thank you all. But if it was, it doesn't mean I have to give up on it. It doesn't mean I have to be like, oh, I'm a terrible YouTuber and I should never try to do anything creative ever again because this thing was a failure. That would be stupid. But you learn from it. And instead of giving up, you either change it or you just kind of pivot, which I know is people's favorite word right now in the time of coronavirus. I've heard people say I've had enough pivot because everybody's pivoting.
I've never heard that yet.
You haven't heard pivot?
No, not on this thing. No,
that's funny.
I haven't either.
I did one of my live streams. I talked about pivoting, doing something, and someone made a comment about, oh, pivot is one of the other words, like the new, I can't remember what the other thing was, but like in these unconventional times, and then like the word pivot, because if you're in business, that's what everybody's doing. So how are we pivoting is like what everyone is saying, but I don't care. It's a good word. Yeah, so that was a huge thing for me. And then right there on the next page, I highlighted, here's something you can never hear enough. We all wipe out. Physically, emotionally, creatively, financially, socially. Everyone does dumb shit. It's inherent to the human growth process. But here's the key. A fall is never final unless you stay on the ground. Mm-hmm. Which goes back to what she said before, but that's just a different way of, if you tripped over something, Lord knows I've tripped over enough things in my life. Literally, I have the scars on my knees to prove it to you that I have hit the ground a billion times. If I had decided to stay there, like you don't stay there. You get up, you slap a bandage on your knee, and you move on with your life, right? If you could take that image and put it into the bigger metaphor of life instead of literally, it's pretty powerful. You wouldn't just stay there if you tripped and fell. Yeah. So those are a couple of things that, one more, and then you guys can talk all about this chapter. I highlighted the pet names for fear because I thought this was very powerful because it's things that all of us deal with. And the fact that it is all just a name for fear gives it a completely different definition, in my opinion. The pet names for fear: concern, stress, anxiety, panic, terror, and stage fright are just a few. It's all fear-based. That's it. And I'm like, huh. And like, when you think of like concern, sure, anxiety, sure, panic and terror, but even like stress is fear-based. And I'm like, as somebody who frequently likes to stress herself out over nothing, when I sit there and go, this is fear-based, I'm like, well, is it really something I'm afraid of? And if it like, why am I stressed about a to-do list? Why am I afraid of a to-do list? It takes the excuse for being stressed away from me. And I don't know if that's just me, but just the way I was looking at it, I'm like, that's so interesting. Giving the word stress a heavier definition, because in my opinion, fear is heavier than stress is. And I don't know if anybody else feels that way too, but that's in my dictionary, the fear is heavier. And all of a sudden when you take stress and call it fear, it's like, but it's not that heavy. The stress is not that heavy. So for me, it kind of just makes me, it's a reality check. It's a perspective check. It's like, is it really something to be is it something worth stressing over or not? Because if you put fear with, I don't know, I thought that was brilliant. Your turn.
Yep, I got a lot out of this one. My one little word this year is brave. So fear is a thing I deal with a lot. And excuse me, what I highlighted is fear is not the enemy. Waiting to stop feeling afraid is. And that moves into the next part that she had about action is the antidote to fear. Action metabolizes it. The trick is allowing yourself to feel fear while you take action. Because sometimes for me, the fear of things just freezes me in place and I miss out on great things because I was too afraid to step into them.
Yeah, you literally touched on everything I had highlighted on the next page. All of it was stuff that I had highlighted. And the fastest way out of fear is through it. Like, you can't go around it. What is that phrase? Can't go over it, can't go under it, gotta go through it. Isn't that like some kids song?
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Like, that's what fear is. You can't avoid it. You just gotta ram right on through it. And yeah, I love that. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Fear is not the enemy. And like, I think that when she talked about fear not being the enemy, once you sit with that for a little while, like, it's okay to be afraid. The goal here is not to not be afraid. It's to do it anyway. Do it in spite of fear. And I don't know, game changer. Who else?
I like on page 97 where it says fear is your soul's GPS. I've never thought of it that way. And I highlighted, it says one sign is if you can't get a certain idea out of your heart or mind, no matter how hard you try, it keeps popping back because it's something that needs to get done. You know, it's even though you might be afraid to do it, once you get it done, that fear is gone and you're on your way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I kept thinking about that too. And I have a couple of things that like keep coming back as things I want to do, but I never actually considered it to be something I was afraid of. But like my fear is manifesting itself in like by the way of procrastination or analysis paralysis with over researching and all that jazz. And I never thought of that as a manifestation of fear of doing the thing. So that weighed heavily on me too. Marie, you had something you want to say?
Yeah, I liked how kind of through the whole chapter she talked about that, and she kind of says it on page 95. Your fear doesn't need to be crushed or annihilated. It needs to be listened to and appreciated for the gift that it offers. So, you know, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? What action do I need to take to not be afraid? And something on that order.
Yeah, no, and that's the way she put it is interesting because I feel like Marie did a really excellent job of making fear not a bad word. Because so often we think of fear as an inherently negative thing, and I think in this chapter she taught us that it's not bad. It's not a negative thing. It's something that should be honored and cherished and listened to and observed, but it can't be paralyzing. So I don't know. Anyone else?
I liked that she said action is the antidote to fear. And I feel that a lot. Like my biggest struggle is just getting going for most things that I struggle with. And so I just like once you start to do it, you're like, okay, this really isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. How many times in life does that happen? Yes. Did anybody look into the fear taming stuff that started on page 100? When you're sitting there being overcome by fear, here's what to do instead. Write down the worst case scenario that could possibly happen if you move ahead with this exciting fear-inducing idea, and then, you know, do the whole project. And then, you know, so what if the worst case scenario happens? Write out your action plan to get out of it. And this is not the only book. What other book did I read recently? I can't even remember. But this got, I was told to do this, and it was probably a Rachel Hollis thing, honestly, because we all know that I listen to her all the time. But like the same idea, like if you plan out your worst case scenario and you figure out how you're going to get out of it, then is it really a big deal if the worst case scenario happens? You know? And I haven't sat and done that work. I mean, I thought through it, actually. I did think through it. I'm like, what if I took this leap and it completely bombed? What would happen? And my worst case scenario ain't all that bad. So should I really be afraid of doing that thing? No.
I once had a therapist pretty much say that exact same thing. Like we would go, so I have kind of anxiety, and she would talk to me about these situations, and she would be like, and then what? And then what? And then we would kind of discuss it. Like everything really wasn't that bad. But in my head, I was like, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's literally what, like, I wish I could remember what the heck I was listening to or reading, but like the work was literally write down, okay, and then what are you going to do? Okay, and then what are you going to do? Like, just like that was the same thing. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, and like I haven't done it like in my personally like my journal thing, but you've done it with me and everything.
Sure have, and I got it out of this book. But yeah, I test drive a lot of this stuff on Lissa, and it works pretty well, I think.
Yeah, no, this is where I ended up stopping my read through the first time. It was this chapter was where I was like, after this chapter, I stopped and switched to Harry Potter.
Nothing wrong with some Harry Potter, but that could be a whole other book club, my friends. On page, we're still in the fear of dealing with the fear. On page 110, her big quote there was, "I win or I learn, but I never lose." And I just think that's another big one that like, there is no failing. There's literally no failing. You either win or you learn. And learning is not so bad. Otherwise, we wouldn't have to go to school for years and years and years of our lives. You know? As Emily goes, yeah. All the school. And then, so it talks a lot about failures. Oh, and I loved this. Failure is just an event. It is not a characteristic. People can't be failures. So when people sit there and think about, oh, I'm such a failure, I'm such a failure. No, an event is a failure. You are not a failure. I thought that was super powerful. I'm hopping over to YouTube for a second. Mindy says, this is my favorite chapter because I've never heard anybody talk about fear in this light. I think of fear as going down a dark alley alone, or the stereotypical fears. Exactly. I thought this was just, I thought she was just, the way she talked about fear, she took all of its power away. I'm a big fan of either giving things power or taking the negative things power away. Because once you do that, no problem. And then I also highlighted at the bottom of page 111, fail. Think about the word fail like this. It's a faithful attempt in learning. You tried. You tried to learn something. You tried to do something, and it didn't quite work out. Like, it's not, she just lightens the definition of so many heavy words in this book, basically, is what it came down to for me. Anyone have any last minute thoughts, or should we move on to chapter 6? Chapter 6. All right. Define your dream. I want to know, for real, because I have not yet, but I actually highlighted the side of the pages so I knew where to find it so I could go back. I did this the first time I read it through, but I want to go back and do it again. Did anyone do the action stuff at the back of this chapter? Because it was in depth. It was crazy in depth. Like, literally defining your dreams, figuring things out, and all that jazz. Because I think if you didn't, it would be a great idea. You know, obviously don't have to do it now, and you don't have to share anything more than you want to share, but it would be a great thing for you to do later. Just because I think I still have on my phone, because at the back of it, she said, what if you don't know your dreams? What if you can't decide? And so she gives you a couple of different prompts to work with instead. And one of them is the wouldn't it be cool if? And then you fill in the blank. Wouldn't it be cool if I stopped working on Fridays? I have not deleted from the last time I read. I have a wouldn't it be cool if to-do list on my cell phone in my reminders app that I made the last time I read this book. And I was like, oh yeah, I have this list. So I went back and looked at this list, and it was just, so a lot of the dreams still stand. Some of the things I now do, like it was pretty cool to see. But that's jumping ahead. But the defining your dream activity is definitely worth checking out. and trying. But my big takeaway, I have a lot highlighted, but my biggest takeaway is on page 121. Clarity comes from engagement, not thought. Like, the end, we can all go home now. Like, if you don't know what that, like, don't think about it, do something, anything. But if you didn't, like again, let's use the book club as an example. Again, I have no freaking clue what I'm doing. I could sit and research how to run a book club all day, or I could say, hey friends, let's get on here and live stream a book club and just talk about it. I did this. I don't know if I'm leading a book club well or not, but we're doing something and it's working. You know,
you're doing a good job.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. I'm just learning that I need to buy the book and not do the Kindle because I'm looking for all the things.
Yeah, I mean, I swear to you, I ordered next month's book because I heard it on audiobook and I'm like, I have to write in this. I think that's the whole reason.
Yes, for self-help books, you definitely have to have the real book because I'm looking through it, trying to find the pages.
Yeah.
I can't find them.
But that
I promise next time I will buy the book the next month.
Great. Yeah. And don't let the size of it scare you. The text is like, it's pretty spread out, but it's a big one.
Okay. I will order it tonight.
But that was like, and then she talked about deciding what you want and everything. And then the other thing I highlighted was ignoring our truth doesn't make it go away. It only spawns despair and dysfunction. It's like when you have that thing eating away at you that you're like, I know I'm supposed to be doing this. I know I'm supposed to be doing this, whatever it is, and you're not doing it. Like, that's the thing that like hurts you down in your soul. And I can kind of relate to that in terms of like me in theater. I haven't done theater in ages. And every time I'm exposed to a song I love, or every time I watch a musical, I'm like, I hurt. I physically hurt because I haven't done it in a long time. And like, that's how you know you're supposed to be doing something, you know? So I relate to that a lot, but this whole chapter just, I love it all, which is why I made this the first book, because every chapter I was like, I feel like she's talking at me and it means something. But what did you
like this sentence here? It says, you were born with everything you need to answer the call of your soul. So that's exactly what you were talking about. If your soul says, yes, you need to do that, that's what you need to be doing. And not everybody has the same calling either. So like, I just moved and my house has this wonderful garden. I weeded it and I love doing that sort of thing. It's fun for me, you know, and it's just, I don't know, it does something to my soul when I do things like that. You know, it's just like, I love to sew. So I walk through the fabric stores. I just feel like I'm in heaven. But it is, it's a calling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be the big dreams or the little dreams. I wish I could garden. I really do, but it's not like the calling of my heart. But like for me, theater, I mean, I have a degree in musical theater, and the fact that I haven't done it in ages hurts so bad. Now, like, and that doesn't mean like my dreams have changed. If you would have asked me as a freshman in college what I was going to do with my life, I was going to move to New York and try and be on Broadway, which at the time was crazy. I literally teared up and almost cried the day that a girl in a wheelchair won the Tony Award last year, because I was like, now is the time for people like me, you know, like, this is awesome. Finally, someone paved the way. And that goes back to, I saw someone else do it, which means I can do it. Right. But like, just because like I came to my senses by the time I graduated college and was like, okay, maybe don't have to go to Broadway, but you have this drive to do something. So what did I do? I did community theater. I made all the friends. I taught others how to sing. I did, like, you know, because that drive is deep down in there. And so your goals and your dreams can change, but the passion, I think, is always there in some way. Does that make sense? That's not in the book. That's just something I was reflecting on in real time.
But doesn't she talk about her own dancing and stuff like that, and how she failed for so long, but she really, really wanted to do it, and she, you know, she kept going at it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah, and she also defined what a successful dancing career was. It wasn't what everyone else saw as the successful dancing career, but because she paved her own way, she still got to do extraordinary things within that genre. even though if it wasn't dancing on Broadway or whatever the heck her original goal was. So actually, it was in the book. Good point.
Yeah.
For me, I highlighted, and what I've actually been applying is the everything worthwhile is hard, excruciatingly hard. Embrace the fact, respect it. You're about to work your ass off for this. Find a way to derive pleasure, however perverse that seems, out of doing hard, meaningful things. It builds strength and character. And this is going to sound way geeky, which I know your husband will love. My husband and I's wedding anniversary is coming up Monday. And we bought a virtual reality headset as our gift to each other.
Those are so cool.
Well, I'm doing
They
Beat
are
Saber.
cool.
I started doing Beat Saber, which is a game on the virtual reality. Yeah.
That's the only experience I have with virtual reality headset is that game, and it was so cool.
Well, so I started the game, and I was just doing the easy levels of all the songs because, well, they're easy, and that makes them fun, because they're easy, and I could do them, and I feel pretty, and I feel graceful. And well, then I thought, okay, I read this, and I'm like, this isn't hard. And I think maybe it needs to be. And so I upped it to normal. Easy is the first level, then normal. So I upped it to normal, and I did normal until I was able to get everything and not miss any of the blocks. If anyone's wondering what this is about, just on YouTube, just go and just put in YouTube Beat Saber. You'll get stuck for hours watching it. It's very entrancing.
Oh.
Well, then just today, I changed to hard. And you can only miss so many of these blocks that are coming at your head, and then you fail that level. Well, I only failed one level out of like 12 that I did today.
Whoa.
So, and I only did that because I read this, and she's talking about everything worthwhile is hard, excruciatingly hard. So many times you read things, they make it sound like, oh, do this and everything will come to you. Well, she's not saying that. She's saying, do the work. So don't phone it in, I know she didn't say that, but that's what I heard in my head is don't phone it in, do the hard work. So that's what I took out of this and what I've been applying.
I love it, and I'm jealous that you own Beat Saber because I played that game once and I had such a good time.
Recommend it.
That's
It's
good
so
stuff.
fun.
Oh, it's so good. But I've now I'm thinking about Beat Saber. Focus, Brianna. Focus. it's oh my gosh, so fun. But what you said about do the work. I tell people to do the work all the time, including myself. Like what's the quickest way to lose weight? Do the work. It's hard. It's simple, but it's hard. But you got to do the work. So quit asking me which plan's going to help you lose weight fastest. Quit asking me what the shortcut is. Just do it. And that's incredibly valuable. Anybody else have something? No. The one other thing I wanted to talk about, just real briefly as an observation, recruiting your RAS. And she talks about how once you've put something in your brain, all of a sudden you notice that it's been around all the time. Has that ever happened to you guys? It happened for my husband with the purchase of our second car, which we live in Minnesota. So we wanted a snow vehicle. So we got a Honda CR-V. And as soon as Eric started Honda CR-V shopping, he made the casual observation that they're literally everywhere in this state. Literally everywhere. And he didn't notice before, but the second that he was thinking about buying one, they were everywhere. Which it was literally what this is talking about on the most basic term, not a dream or anything, but all of a sudden when you put it in your head, you see it everywhere, which I just thought was really interesting.
Same with Honda Accords.
Yeah.
They're all over.
Honda's a big brand out here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my little Ford Fiesta is not. All right. Let's move on to chapter 7 because we're already over an hour. So we're going to...
Oh, wow.
I know. This went fast. I like it. Start before you're ready. What did we take from this one other than like literally the chapter of the title could sum up the entire chapter? I did highlight the bit about future tripping, refers to the common human tendency to worry about the future at the expense of fully living in the present. I just thought that was, I hate the idea of being a part of something that costs me living in the moment, because I'm not good at that. I'm good about worrying about the future or reflecting on the past. But this moment, it once it's gone, it's gone. And so I'm trying very actively to be more in the present. So when I think about something about like worrying about this prevented me from enjoying this thing now. Worrying about like, oh, what if it's like something as simple as like, oh, if I went out with so-and-so tonight, then I would go to bed late and then I wouldn't have the energy to work out, whatever the case may be, as arbitrary as it might be. But like, or you could just stop worrying about it and go out and have the fun thing and adapt to changing your schedule later. Like live, go do something. I don't know. I'm always caught off guard when something tells me I'm wasting my life.
That's what it says on 165. I highlight it says, remember, you don't need to know everything about your dream, nor do you need to map out every step in advance. Stop hiding behind books and websites. Instead, develop a bias for action. Make appointments, have real life conversations, which is kind of hard right now, but you'll learn more and make faster progress. Start before you're ready. Start before you're ready. Start before you're ready.
Yeah. 100%. And the thing I have highlighted too is her little bit on like, okay, so you need to research something. Decide that you are going to research and find out that one single piece of information you need to go and take the next action, and then stop and go take the next action instead of going down that rabbit hole. I was like, ooh, kicking me where it hurts, because I can spend all day researching, all day. Or brainstorming. I'm very good at brainstorming. Yeah, I was just like, oh, so simple. Value growth and learning over comfort and certainty. That's a good one. Oh, on page 169, I have highlighted underneath the 2 circle things for my Kindle friends. Almost everything you need to make your dream a reality requires new skills, experiences, and understanding. You must do things you've never done before. Starting before you're ready isn't easy, but if you want to change, it's required. I just think that's, as somebody who's trying to, who's hesitant to take next steps, I think that hearing this chapter is very, very impactful for me. And in terms of my business and everything, like just, you could research all day, you could take all the workshops, you could take all the things, but just there is no teacher like doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's what I got from that. Anybody else have thoughts on it?
Well, I didn't read that part yet, but I'm a speech pathologist and I'm used to going to homes to do speech, and all of a sudden, because of, COVID, I had to do video conferencing. So I took tons of workshops, but then all of a sudden I had to go back to work and I had to go online and do therapy online. And that's what I've been doing. And just what you just said, it's just like, there's so many workshops you can take. You just have to do it. You just have to begin. And that's what happened to me, is like, I've been working nonstop, and just learning how to do it, and I had to teach the parents how to go online and to do everything.
Yeah.
And not be afraid of the technology. So
it reminds me of my grandmother. So my grandparents had a pool. And so me and my 2 sisters and my 3 cousins, we all learned how to swim in that pool. And when we were, younger, we were trying to learn how to jump in the pool. And my youngest sister was learning how to jump in the pool. And she was so like, she just, you can picture the kid like not willing to go. So what does grandma do? Walks up behind her and knocks her in.
You just have to do
kind of
it.
what it is. Like, just do it, kid. And then she did it, and she's like, well, that was the worst, and that wasn't so bad. Okay, and
Just
moving
throw
on.
it back in.
That's kind of what it is. Just like that's the whole concept. Starting before you're ready and just doing it, and just
And
grandma shove you in.
you just have to do it. That's all.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what you did. That's what you what it reminded me
That's
of.
how I learned how to swim, by the way. I'm from Florida, so
Yes.
I was thrown in the pool.
Oh my gosh, I love it. We have Mindy over on YouTube. This definitely gave me something to think about, and it's definitely a chapter worth rereading and listening to. Again, not a topic I've ever heard another self-help productivity book talk about. Love it. All right, let's move on to Progress, Not Perfection. The end. Progress, not perfection. But what do I have highlighted in here? I love the Elizabeth Gilbert quote, actually. Perfection is unachievable. It's a myth and a trap and a hamster wheel that will run you to death. That's a great thing to remember. It's unachievable, so don't even try. Perfection, I highlighted at the bottom of that page. Perfectionism at its core isn't about high standards. It's about fear. Fear of failure, fear of looking stupid, fear of making a mistake, fear of being judged, criticized, and ridiculed. Like, that's it. Then, like, once you think about that, like, if perfectionism is just a fear and you're trying to combat fear, there's no reason to be perfect. Like, I don't know. Like, when you connect all of the words, like, well, you don't want to say that you're afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I just want it. No, if you want it to be perfect, you're afraid of it being, of somebody saying something about it. But other people's opinions.
That is so right, Brianna. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you said it. You said it was in my head. So I have a YouTube channel as well, and I make crafting videos. So you see my hands. That's really what you see my hands. Well, what happens to hands during a pandemic when all the nail salons are closed? So I'm freaking out. I'm like, because in the past I would like wait. I would get my nails done and I would like just record every video that I wanted to record for the whole month. And that one weekend when my nails looked perfect. Well, that was not a possibility anymore. So I was talking to my sister, freaking out about it. And, I have done, I don't know how many videos now with my nails looking like, crap. They're not anymore. We're in Tennessee. We opened.
Okay.
I did so many videos, and you know what? Not one person, not even the troll, said anything about my nails. So it's
all in your head.
Mm-hmm, it was all in my head. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love how every channel has at least that one troll. That one. I've got the thumbs down person who I always make fun of. There's always one, like 30 seconds after I upload a video. I'm like, oh, hey, thumbs down troll. How are you today?
Yep. But those thumbs downs, they are engagement, and it counts the same as whether they thumbs up you. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I get you.
Yeah. I'm like, thumbs down me all day. It's fine. Do it.
Yeah. My favorite was when your thumbs down troll found the private video with the thumbs down.
Yeah. I don't even know how that happened, but I got a thumbs down on something that wasn't even public. So I'm like, I don't know how you found the link and then managed to thumbs down it, but whatevs. It's fine. It's fine.
You ever just feel really bad for that person? Like, that's how they're choosing to spend their time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And that's how I feel like there are people that will come on and like, I don't have very many rude subscribers or whatever, which is outstanding. But every once in a while, there's someone and they'll make such a comment. And I can't even remember what the comment I got was, but I got such a rude comment one day. And instead of being offended by it, I was legitimately sad for the person who was so angry with their life that they felt that they had to come at me to feel better about themselves. I was just like, you poor soul. What? Oh, like I just wanted to pet them or something because they were very, it was something about me being child free and thus not contributing to society. That it was something along that line. It was rough. And I'm just like, Poor person.
Hmm.
But yeah.
The one where you hadn't even started the YouTube yet, and you had a thumbs down. I'm like, what? At least wait for the content and then decide.
Yeah. Whatever. People. But yeah, I always have to wonder about those trolls, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. No problem. Because we're not worried about perfectionism here. Bring on the thumbs downs. Oh, the other thing I highlighted on page 179 was comparison is creative kryptonite. I was like, ooh, as somebody who needs to be a creative, that's good to remember. But
What was her word? Comparschlager?
Comparschlager. Yeah, Comparschlager. That's a good one. And then I also highlighted, for my own, it's not like, it's all about progress, not perfection, but it was just from this moment forward, that's all you strive for. Progress, not perfection. Capiche? And then she had to tell you how to pronounce capiche.
Yes, that was funny.
But I don't know. That's my reminder to myself. Anything else that was in this chapter that really stood out to you? I've got one on page 197. I'm just going through and looking for my highlights for time's sake, but giving up isn't the same as moving on. Don't use progress, not perfection, to punish yourself and keep pursuing a dream that no longer serves you. And I just thought that was a really great reminder too. As someone who's had a handful of big dreams in her life, like I'm not pursuing my first one anymore in its entirety. And this was like that's okay. You have other goals now, and that's okay. And I'm like, that's really nice to hear. You know, like I've always known it's okay, but it's really nice to see it written or said by somebody that you admire. So I really liked that. That's all I have in that chapter. Any last minute thoughts before we talk about refusing to be refused? All right, let's move on to chapter 9 so I can get everybody on their merry way. Checking YouTube, we're good, okay. So chapter 9, refuse to be refused. This is what I read today. And it was it's not something that I relate to quite as much, but, or at least not to her level, like her pounding the pavement level of refusing to be refused is admirable. A couple things I did highlight though, was fact, you're already being judged right now. So there's that. Fact, everything you love is despised by someone else. Fact, the more you care about what others think, the more they own you. And I found that one. Sorry, my computer and my Alexa is trying to tell me to go get ready for bed. I have an alarm set that tells me to go get ready for bed an hour or so early, so I actually go do it, and then I'm ready to get into bed. Are you done? Thank you. Goodness. But I was really impacted by the more you care about what others think, the more they own you, which I just think is such a powerful reason to let other people's opinions not faze you, you know? And as somebody who puts herself out there online and all that stuff, like that, there are times I'm getting a lot better about it, but like thinking about like they own you. If you actually care, they own you. I'm like, ooh. I ain't owned by nobody, so I need to get that in check. That was really the thing that stood out to me. Anyone have something?
I highlighted on the next page on 227, supportive and caring folks usually share advice with you in private after you've asked for their input. Even then, they do say in a way that supports your growth, not stunts it. The people closest to me do that. I'm grateful they look out for me and I work hard to do the same for them. It's like having that accountability, but with close friends, not some outsider, doing the thumbs down thing.
Yeah. And it's important to have people whose opinions you do value, but that number needs to be much smaller, and you need to make sure that they're giving their, even if it's critical opinions, for the right reasons.
Right. Yes.
Ultimate secret. On page 231, under the ultimate secret behind refusing to be refused, make sure your dream is tied to something beyond yourself. Striving to be your best is one thing, but when you do your best for the betterment of others, you will be virtually unstoppable. I just thought that was also huge, and encouraging for me as well. Because I light up, I know I do, when I know I'm making impact on someone else, because it's not about me, it's about helping that other person. And that's how I know that I'm doing the right thing. So when you make, and so like when she said that, I was like, that's, yes, I feel that in my soul. Yeah.
Yeah, she says that basically kind of through the whole book, about putting it out for other people and helping other people, and that sort of thing kind of makes you more joyful.
Yeah. And it does. It's true. And then it looks like the last thing I have highlighted is on page 238, and it says, no matter how many times you think an idea or creation has been shared in the world, sometimes it takes that one person expressing it in their unique voice at the right time and the right place for it to actually make a difference. You are that person for somebody. And I don't know how it applies to the rest of you, but for me, this is directly applicable to what I do. So for me, that was very powerful, especially in a world where, for me, like, there's a bunch of us talking about weight loss, and there's a bunch of us on YouTube, and there's a bunch of us doing this. And so, like, there's a lot of the same stuff that comes out. And this is an excellent reminder that, like, for me, yeah, the same stuff is coming out, but no one's going to say it like I'm going to say it. And if that changes for something for one person, then it's worth doing. And that's what keeps me driving forward towards my goal. So I loved the way she verbalized that. Anything else?
Yeah, that goes into what I kind of lost track of what chapter we're on, but chapter 10 is the whole thing about the world needs that special gift that only you have.
Oh, sorry, did I go into a new chapter? I
don't know if you did, but it said right in what I was thinking was the same thing. It's like, other people do the same thing, but they don't do my version of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get down on myself, and it's like, why am I even wasting my time here? Because I'm showing people things that other people have already shown them. But then I get that one commenter that says, thank you so much. I didn't understand it before, but now I do. And I've had this craft product in my room for months, but I didn't know how to use it. And now I do. And I think to myself, you want to take, you should be taking that as praise and building you up. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, well, it's been out on the internet forever on how to use it. Why am I so special to show it to her? But I did. So yeah, but it's that same thing that the world needs that special gift only you have. And when I was reading this chapter, it just felt like Marie was just like, my cheerleader, and she doesn't even know me. It was like, I love the way she wrote that. And I had never heard of her at all before this book. I didn't even know who she was. So now I'm going to check out her YouTube channel. And that was one of my 5 small things, was I was trying to figure out my 5 small things. I think that was the last chapter. And one of them is watch, listen, read something health, fitness related every day. And I got that from thinking about watching her channel.
I love that. And I directly relate with your YouTube channel thing. My rule has been and always will be, and it's something I need to always recenter myself with over and over again when I let other things start to get in the way. But my rule has always been, if this video, whatever it is, positively impacts one, it was worth putting out there. And so that was the result you had. You're like, well, I don't know why I got through, but I got through. So that was your one, and that's awesome. So I relate to that.
Isn't there like a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear?
Oh,
I get that from Kung Fu movies.
I like that though. I like that. Yeah.
Isn't the best stuff from the Kung Fu movies? I mean, it's like, that's
Yeah.
all of our
I'm
wiseness.
thinking of the TV show with David Carradine. I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember that.
I am.
Love it. Love it. Any final, I'm trying to see if there's anything else I highlighted. No, there is not. Any final thoughts that we have on this book?
I like it in the chapter 9, the refused to be refused, where she's doing the whole thing with her husband and the vacation and all that. I love how she wouldn't accept no for an answer, but she also respected that the airlines had, here's the rules, and it's fine. We'll figure out how to work your rules and still get what we want.
That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point. She did
Really
not
like that.
throw a fit or do any of that. She's like, okay, these are the guidelines. This is the problem. How can we accomplish this? I didn't think about that. I like that a lot. Anyone else? Any final thoughts from the YouTube community? Leave your comments.
Actually, I think for me, the biggest thing was the part about not giving anyone power to control your emotions, not your parents. That, and like, because that's something I'm actively working towards.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, that entire page on my Kindle, I highlighted that entire page.
Good. Yeah, that's the beauty of this book, is every little things are going to speak to different people. So good. You take that and you work with that. I approve.
I feel like 6 months from now, and I should reread it again and see what pops out then.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Think about having the hard copy.
Yeah.
And I have to say, having the meeting tonight really tied everything up for me, because it helped me to go back and think about what I've read. Because I don't know if you all saw on the reading group, I put my reading plan, and I almost followed it to a T, where I read a chapter like every few days. And so I've spread this book out through the whole month. And so I've kind of forgotten what I read earlier, and this was a great review. So I've never been in a book club where we did this. I was in the other one we did for the Bible study. And that was great, but it was like after you talked about that one chapter, you didn't go back and talk about it again. So this was great, doing it all at one time. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, and I know it's a lot to take in. We could probably talk for another hour if we really wanted to, but we're already way over on the time. What? Your notes?
I added sticky notes.
I love that. I was not that cool. I just did the highlight in a really obnoxious yellow so I could go like flip the book and figure out what's what. Oh, thank you so much, ladies. Oh, good. So everyone on YouTube, I'm going to actually go ahead and sign off here on YouTube. So I hope everybody watching over there or watching the replay really enjoyed this. Special shout out to everybody that came on and had a discussion. And if you are interested in next month's book, which is Chasing Cupcakes by Elizabeth Benton, that is listed down below, as well as the Facebook group to join the book club. And if you are interested in joining our awesome video chat next month, you must be a member of that Facebook group. So my YouTube friends, I will sign off for now. Thank you for hanging out with us till the very end. I know this ran a lot longer, but it was a solid discussion. So take care, and we will talk to you guys later. And that's stream. Boom.